What up, people? Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to bring you a bookish video. If you don't know, reading is one of my favorite pastimes. I could talk about books all day long. I could read all day long. Books are truly magical and such an underrated form of education. If you identify as a lifelong learner, love academic validation, may I suggest picking up a book, reading a nonfiction book before you decide to go back to school and get your PhD in, like, I don't know. I don't want to say something because someone will have a PhD in that and it'll be offensive. So in today's video, I'm going to be telling you the 5-ish books that you should read before 2026. I will make note that these are all nonfiction in the personal development, self-help space. So get your Goodreads pulled up because I'm going to give you a handful of books that you should read by the end of 2026 if you want to change your life. Truth be told, the first book I do not have a physical copy of because I've had 2 physical copies but have lent them out to people, and it is The Midnight Library. I have reread this book a few times, and each time I read it, it just kind of fills me with peace and contentment. The synopsis is this man is in a library, and each book is a version of his life had he made certain decisions. It is so easy to catch yourself thinking, well, what if I did this? Or what if I had done this instead? Where would I be in life? You know, would I be happier? Would I be more successful? And you go down a really negative spiral, and this book demonstrates that. For a small spoiler of this, I will just say that where you are is where you're supposed to be, and the grass is not always greener on the other side. It's green where you water it. The second book that I have also read more times than I can count is Present Over Perfect by Shauna Niequist. Basic gist is that doing more isn't always best, and being rich in life isn't how much you're doing or how many places you're traveling. You know, that's not where happiness comes from. It truly does come from being present and the little moments and enjoying those and making space for those. I do think there are seasons and times of life when it is important to quote unquote hustle. That's where a lot of growth comes from. But there are also seasons when you just kind of coast and you prioritize just really being where you are. Not to say that the two can't coexist, where you can be super goal oriented and involved and also present. That is 100% true, and I stand by that. But I do think there are seasons and times when there's seasons where you're taking huge leaps and bounds. That's what you're motivated by. And then there's seasons where you just want to be still. This book is very soothing and it's kind of my comfort read. This is a book that I'm definitely going to reach for and reread dozens of times in my life. Okay, on a honestly completely different note, the next book I recommend is Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution by Elie, Mystal. This book is so iconic. As you can see, I tabbed it and I read this for one of my constitutional law classes in law school because it truly dumbs down the Constitution in layman's terms. It makes you realize, like, yes, the Constitution is so important. Me as a future lawyer, like, that will be my job to uphold it and defend it. But it also really demonstrates that the Constitution really was just written by a bunch of men. And each chapter of this book goes through each amendment. It's fascinating. I highly recommend, even if, especially now when we are definitely in a constitutional crisis where certain branches of the government think they can manipulate the Constitution to push agendas, and looks at it from a intersectional perspective of being, you know, a Black man in America. The next book that I highly recommend for anyone in their 20s, but honestly, this could be interpreted for anyone in their 30s, 40s, honestly, hell, at any age. It's The Defining Decade, and it's Why Your 20s Matter and How to Make the Most of Them. This book was an absolute game changer for me, and I think it can be a game changer for so many young people who don't know what they're doing with their life. They feel like they're stuck. It kind of gives you a kick in the ass. This is not a book where it's gonna be like, it's okay, take your time. It basically says, like, no, get your ass up and work. This book hounds home the idea that your 20s are not to be wasted, and even when you're young and you feel like you have no power in the world, it's such a defining time to really make your mark in the world and not make excuses for yourself. The next book I highly recommend is The Latte Factor by David Bach and John David Mann. This is a super quick read. You could honestly probably read it in a day. It's like almost less than 100 pages long. A beginner's guide to financial literacy and honestly financial abundance in a sense. Role plays a scenario and where there's this girl who's quote unquote really bad with money. She has has debt, she doesn't earn a lot, and it kind of walks her through how she gets herself out of that situation. It teaches you very tangible tips and steps on how to start building a really strong financial foundation. Truth be told, a lot of the tips given in this book, if you have a baseline financial knowledge, you probably already know. There were definitely nuggets of this book that I hadn't thought about. Mindset was a big thing with money. And then the last book I will recommend for a book to read before 2026 is Essentialism. I think I'm inadvertently adopting the motto, do less, more. Apply that how you'd like. It's easy to dilute our energy. It's easy to dilute ourselves when we're focused on so many things. This book exemplifies just that. People oftentimes feel overworked and burnt out and like they're not moving the needle on anything and they're doing a lot, but they're not very productive. And it gives very tangible tips on how to actually start making movement. If you don't read this book, seeing this illustration is going to get the job done. Here it is. One of the first pages. This is you. And all these little arrows are you putting your energy towards a bunch of things. So whether these are business ventures, you know, you're spending some time on all these different things. And yeah, you're making some progress, but you're not skyrocketing. This is you when you focus all your energy just on one thing and look how much more progress you can make. Granted, that's not necessarily possible with like a personal life. You know, if you have a family, you can't focus all your energy on your business. But if you're looking at this from like truly like a business perspective, there is some hard truths to this. You know, why are we diverting our energy in so many places when really we should be just clearing out the shit and focusing 100% or 90% of our energy in one area. So these are books that I have read and reread a few times that have truly made an impact in my life. And for me to say a nonfiction book has made an impact on me is saying a lot. With the fear of sounding grotesque, it takes a lot to It takes a really unique and good book to cut through all the noise and really make a lasting impact. I can't tell you how many nonfiction books I've read. Hundreds. And these are the ones I pulled out for this video because these truly have made an impact on my life and can in yours too. Follow me on Goodreads. It is linked in the description. Let me know what other types of videos and content you'd like to see from me. And as always, please subscribe. Until next time, peace.